Hi, all. My name is Daphne Thompson, and I have the absolute privilege today to speak to the powerhouse Tracey Northcott. Now, she is an absolutely phenomenal entrepreneur, female in the industry in Japan, and knows everything there is to know about the short-term rentals in Japan. Welcome, Tracey.
Thank you so much, Daphne. It's a pleasure to be here.
Please do tell me, how did you land in Japan?
Well, it was 20 years ago that I moved here. So actually the first time I came to Japan was when I was 17 and I'm 50 now. So you do the math. So I came when I was actually in high school because I studied Japanese at high school. And my brother was living here at that time, and he was here. It was his 21st birthday. It was my 17th birthday. And I came over to see him for his birthday. And I was in final year of high school, and he was here on a working holiday. So that's the first time I came. And then I came up a few different times. And then in my late 20s, I wanted to change my career from being a scientist I retrained. So I did chemistry at university. And I was working in laboratories, and I was a very bad scientist. I kept blowing myself up, and then I was in sales again in science, so still in STEM, and then I retrained in IT management. So it was fairly. So computers weren't even around. Like computer programming wasn't really around as a university option for me when I was at university. That's how old I am. So, when I did computing at school, it was by cards. You'd fill in the little cards, and it was just so boring, and it was full of nerds. But when my late 20s, everything was taking off, and so I retrained in IT and IT systems management. And so my brother was working in IT here in Japan, and so he said, "Look, family business. Why don't you come over and give me a hand?" So I did, and because I spoke enough Japanese to get me into trouble and not enough to get me out, which is still the case for my Japanese now. So that's the long story of how I arrived when I was 29. So I still work with my brother now in computers. So we do software for iPhones, so we make apps for mobile phones, which we still do. And that's how I landed.
So is the mobile app company, is that your majority of your time? Is it actually the short-term rentals?
Good question. The thing about short-term rentals is that you've got a lot of work-life balance. You've got a lot of flexibility, and also with software, I don't have calls in the middle of the night for software, so I can really fit that in and around my hard appointments for the short-term rentals. I can plan in because that's when customers are arriving, and I need to do customer communications, and so. But then the IT stuff I can do anytime. So
how did the short-term rental thing come up? Like, I assume you've always been interested in property, and then just wanted to find out how the Japanese property works.
Yeah, my brother and I, we're multi-curious, I guess. We love to dabble in different things, and we see our company as a way for us to explore what we're curious about, and also to do projects. A company is never really one thing. Well, in my opinion, a company is never one thing. It's not a baby. It should evolve and grow based on what the markets are doing and what opportunities are presenting yourself, and also what you feel like doing at the time. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur mainly for lifestyle reasons. So I get to pick and choose my projects. I get to pick and choose my time that I want to work, and how much I want to work, and what interests me. So I'm sort of more of a horizontal entrepreneur than a vertical one. So how I started in the short-term rental was we traveled. So I had I got married here. I had a small child at the time. This is 10 years ago. And we took a family trip with my parents to Korea, and I was looking for accommodation for all of us. So something local, something where we could be comfortable, where we could spend time with each other. And there was just nothing available in hotels or even service departments that was big enough for our group. And someone mentioned this Airbnb thing, and I thought, oh, that sounds a bit interesting. So I with my curiosity hat on, I did a bit of a deep dive into it and saw that, I could book a house for the same price as a hotel, and we would all be in the same house, and we could cook, and, I could put my son down for a nap in one room, and then other people could be in another room and talk and not worry. And I thought, this is genius for families traveling or extended families traveling. And being in Japan, we have a lot of visitors, especially since I had the small baby. And Japan was really on the radar of people traveling, and everyone wanted to come, and everyone thought, oh, Tracey's in Japan, let's go visit her.
No, and of course, if you want to see the new family member and just show some love and basically a little bit of free accommodation and just see the way.
Yeah, but then with the baby, it was fine before because we had a 2-bedroom place. But, when we had a baby, it was like, well, baby needs to be in baby's room. And my parents, who are wonderful, my dad's got two new knees and hip replacement. He can't be on and off the futon on a living room floor.
No.
And so I thought, well, how about I rent a second apartment, which is close to where we are, where family and friends can stay, and they can have their own place and have their own, cook and do their own breakfast, and still be walking distance to our house. And they don't have to be on our living room floor, and they can have privacy and we can have privacy. And when I don't have family and friends, I'll rent it out on Airbnb and cover my costs. And so it'll be a zero-sum game. So that was the goal. And then I listed it.
Sounds logical.
Yeah, and it just went bonkers. So it was at a time where Japan was really looking to increase the inbound tourism numbers. They'd relaxed a lot of visa restrictions from countries in Southeast Asia and done a lot of reciprocal short-term visa relationships with companies, bilateral agreements. So instead of sort of applying for a visa, like if someone wanted to come to Japan for a holiday, they didn't have to go through the whole rigmarole of filling in a form and going to the embassy and getting approval. They dropped a lot of that at the time, and it just, made the barrier to entry literally a lot lower. So there was a massive influx of new tourists, and also families were traveling. The Japanese yen has been pretty flat. Standard of living has been, pretty consistent. And places like Australia has had a lot of inflation over the last 20 years. And what people thought of Japan as being really expensive, because it's had such a flat economy and such, the inflation's been very, very low, it was much more appealing for especially Australians to come visit. And then it just grew from there. So
what you're saying is, at that specific time that you had the friend or your family coming in, it was kind of like a little bit of luck that everything just aligned up. You had this asset. The goal was only for families and things like that, and to rent it out here and there. And all of a sudden, like the government, everything was just lining up. So this went, wow. How was the agreement that you made to sublease, or how did you do that one?
This was really early days. I made a lot of mistakes. So the first unit I had, I spoke to the landlord and I said, look, I'm not renting this for myself. I was up front. I said, I'm not renting this for myself. I'm renting this as a second, in Japanese, a second house. And I'm renting this for family and friends to come and visit. And there'll be lots of different people in and out. Is that okay?
That must have raised some eyebrows.
It was an apartment that didn't have a front desk. There was only 6 apartments in the building. No one, in the time that I was there, I rarely saw other people going in and out of the apartment.
Okay.
And people in Japan just sort of tend to keep to themselves. So it was, rather than me being shifty or shady, it was just an omission that I said that I was going to put this on Airbnb, because it wasn't the primary reason for me listing it. After that one, after things started to grow very quickly, I realised that this was going to be a business. So then we used our business and started to lease apartments as a corporate lease, with full transparency with the owners. They're a lot harder to find, but when you're in a building complex, you can't hide different people coming in and out every couple of days with suitcases, and if you try, you're just going to end up with an expensive mistake. So we grew very quickly. So working with my brother, they said, hey, this is an opportunity here. Let's explore this and use the company to start to rent apartments, and I'll manage it, because again, it's I was using IT systems and Skype and those sorts of things to minimize my actual hands-on time. Yeah. And then I would hire in cleaners and so I had 10 that I was running on my own before I started.
Did you just see? So it all started from just the one family trip, or the one apartment that you rented for your family, and then you just saw that this is a massive opportunity, and then you just tried another one and kind of did the same and tried another one. That's amazing.
Yeah. So what I did then was, so I paid for the first one out of my own pocket, because in Japan, when you rent an apartment, you've got to pay first a month's rent, you've got to pay agents' fees, and you have to pay about 6 months rent up front. And I thought, hang on, how about we do this as a company, and let's use the company as an investor, and pay me a wage or pay me a salary out of that, and put it all through the company, which was the right thing to do. So we started renting apartments with the company name, with the company seal and things. We just scaled it from there.
That is really, really cool. So how long did it take you? Because I know that you are the business and you are a 7-figure entrepreneur with a massively successful business, and congratulations on that. I am really envious. Not envious. Envious is the wrong word. I am inspired. I'm really inspired by meeting those amazing people, and especially females in Japan that is doing that. Foreign females in Japan. That's like unheard of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm, because I don't work for for a Japanese company, I don't sort of feel like I have to live by those sorts of rules. And very early on, working with my brother, he basically said, look, it's a company, use it. If you've got something that you want to do or something to explore, if it's going to be profitable, use the company. It's like, that's what it's not a baby. It's a means to an end. Like it's a vehicle to get what you need done.
And how long did it take you to scale to that?
I did 10 on my own. That was about a year and a half. And then my husband at the time was working in restaurants as a restaurant manager, and the hours are horrible, and the pay in Japan for hospitality is horrible. And, we have a small child. So I was, during the week, I was almost like a single parent, because, he'd be working late at night and he would barely get to see our son. So it was just like, well, what are we doing this for? This is just nuts. Why working in a job that you don't like and not getting to live? So I said, well, let's put another couple of houses on, and you can, you can come work in the business, and he gets paid a salary, which was about the same as what he was getting in the restaurants, and
just better
hours, more flexibility. And when he first gave up work, he said very quietly, he said, does this mean I'm an entrepreneur now? And I went, yes, you are. Yes. It's like, because it was in his mindset, he's always been a worker. Like he's always worked for somebody else. And like to go from that mindset into stepping into a new, into a new place is exciting, but also it's like, oh, can I call myself an entrepreneur? Yes, you can.
Yeah, but it's
giving you permission.
I'm experiencing actually that with my husband as well. He's a commercial airline pilot, flying for ANA in Japan. That's how we got here. But aviation kind of crashed with COVID and things. So he's also joined forces with me now in the digital industry. And beginning was very daunting for him. And he didn't realize how much in the beginning when you're building, and I'm sure you understand that, how much we actually put in. So that was like he's like, can I please go back to flying? I didn't know I had it that good.
Because that's the thing, when you are starting up a business, you wear all the hats, you do all the things, and you've got to go from a marketing brain to a technician brain to then a CEO brain. It's a very different skill set, and you've got to be able to switch very quickly. It's hard and it's a lot of work until you've got your systems down, and then once you've got a system, then you can delegate that system and hand that off to somebody else. But you've got to know it first.
I 100% agree with you. Yeah. So that's just really funny that we were all in kind of similar situations.
Yeah, and so he was like, so actually still in that mindset of like, a little bit in that mindset of like, well, I'm doing this work, then I get this amount of reward for it. It's like, no. Like, you've got to put in a ton of work for a reward down the line, and you can't just sort of say, well, I'm not going to do that because I can't see an immediate reward from it. You've actually just got to trust the process a little bit and realize that a lot of the work that you put in early on, you don't get to reap the rewards of that until later.
But that is a mindset shift that needs to happen. It's a completely different thing. But like you said, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line, you'll see, oh, that's why I woke up at 4 a.m. for meetings.
Yes. Yes, I see. There are quite a few times that I wake up at 5 a.m. to go to meetings, and and then I go back to bed. It's just like it's like, because what are you doing that for? Like, where's the immediate return? It's like, no, can't put it. It's not a 1 + 1 = 2 situation. So
it's like a 1 + 1 = 10, but not right now.
Not right now, exactly. And you've just got to trust the process. But it's hard.
But so, it took you guys how long to build it?
I think our best year was about 5 years in. We scaled back after that because during that year it was just, we had 25 units, and we had, there was us full-time staff, and then so we were working in the business as well as on the business. So we sort of took stock of that a little bit, and then what we decided that we still wanted to make the same margins, the same profits, but we may not hit the 7-figure rev targets. But really, you can't eat the revenue, you can only eat the profits. So so that's what we really focused on. Again, thinking about work-life balance. How much do we want to work? How much where is our money coming from? And let's really focus on maximizing our profits. So that was about 2018, I think. Yeah.
So that was about 5 years into the game.
Yeah.
What did you guys do in order to still increase or maximize your profits on your current, well, not just your margins, but there's only a few ways to make money, right? It's either you need more leads, or you need more clients, or you need your clients to buy more or more often. So how did you guys apply that principle?
Yeah. So in the short-term rental industry, there's a couple of ways to make profits. Is you get more listings, or you increase occupancy. But then again, you can only occupy over 100. Like, you can only, time is your limit, because you've only got 365 nights in a year. So you can't sell more than those.
Yeah.
So what you can do is that each night you've got to raise make sure that you're maximizing your ADR, your average daily rate. And you also look at raising your average daily rate, streamlining your costs, and then adding additional revenue streams.
Like cleaning, for example, or
cleanings comes into a cost, as a cost. So what I say is an additional revenue stream is adding optional extras. So we built my own website, and that came online in 2018. So I take then direct. So we started then collecting email addresses and doing collecting a customer base.
Yeah.
Funnel marketing, yes. So, but this is more sort of retargeting almost. So people that have stayed with us before, obviously we like them, they love us. I can then encourage them to come back to us directly rather than going back out into the marketplace. So the marketplace being the OTA. So once the biggest failing of Airbnb is that it's a marketplace where you don't own your customer. So the Airbnb owns the customer.
Yes.
So anyone who wants a sustainable short-term rental business really needs to own the customer. And
that's a very key aspect that you're mentioning there. So how did you guys pivot that or get around that?
So there's a few things. So branding obviously is massive. When we decided who our ideal guest was, and that was sort of 2013, 2014, we really decided that our ideal customer was a particular customer base. So then we started targeting all of our listings and photographs and the amenities to really look after those guests. And then when we created our own company and our own brand around that, which is Tokyo Family Stays, obviously who we're serving and where we are is built right into the name. And then from that, I built the website again with my marketing hat on, looking at who am I trying to attract. When you've got your own website, you can do your own SEO. You can also make your own affiliate arrangements. So I go direct to travel agencies, to Facebook groups where that people are specifically looking at Japan travel. I've got an arrangement with the admin of those groups. I have introduction fees. So all the basic marketing things you do off the OTA. So the OTA still is a way that I reach potential guests. But then once those guests...
To clarify, what does OTA stand for?
Oh, sorry, online travel agency.
Ah.
Yeah, for the jargon, I'm sorry.
Okay, awesome.
The glossary really is STR is short-term rental, and short-term rental has been around a lot longer than Airbnb. A lot of people use Airbnb like they do Google. It's the verb and the noun, and it describes the business as a whole.
Yeah.
But that's been great marketing for them. But technically it's a short-term rental business, which isn't as sexy as a nice short name. But when you work in the short-term rental industry, you have a number of different sales options, a number of different funnels, and a number of different marketplaces that you can attract the right guests. So, but it takes a bit of work to do that. And if you're serious about a sustainable business, then you've really got to have an identity and a brand away from the platform that you're selling on, because otherwise you're just a commodity and you're just like everybody else.
So do you train people on short-term rentals as well?
I do. Yes, I do. So about 2018, I started up a consulting business, and I started up that primarily here in Japan to help face-to-face. So I would go out to people who wanted to improve their short-term rental, or they wanted to start, and train them on how to look after inbound tourists, mostly Japanese people, because
meaning like Japanese are the landlords, like they own it, or catering for Japanese people?
The Japanese hosts. So
okay.
these are people who are actually typically they were Japanese retirees basically, that they wanted, they had a big old house in the country, and they wanted to, there was at that time there was just waves and waves and waves of tourists coming in, and they wanted to. These hosts wanted to show off their area. They wanted to show tourists a good time. They wanted to really be, they wanted to make some money, of course, but they also have a real desire to show off Japan. And
just to add in that's one thing that I absolutely love about the Japanese people is their pride in their country and their pride in what they do. I absolutely love that.
Very much so. And the government was sort of encouraging this as well, saying, and Airbnb was saying, oh, look, isn't this great? You can share your home and welcome in foreign guests, and you can practice your English, and you can meet interesting people from all around the world, and because Japanese, the soul of Japan is just such a hospitable nature, and there is very humble, and they've got a lot of pride in showing off their uniqueness. They are very unique, and it's something they have a lot of cultural pride about, and they wanted to share that with a lot of people want to share that with curious and inbound tourists, and a lot of the tourists coming in as well had that beautiful appreciation and attitude of they did want to suck it all up. So
and they want to learn more.
So that's a really good match made in heaven. However, there's a bit of a disconnect in there that the hosts didn't really understand the subtleties of what inbound tourists were looking for.
Like what? And I was like the things that I've experienced in Japan, just being in Airbnb, is like forks and knives.
Yeah, exactly.
Or where's the bed?
Where's the bed? Where's the chairs?
Yes, where's the chairs?
Where's the chairs? Where's the bed?
Where's my mug?
Where's my coffee cup? Yes. Yeah. Where's my coffee mug? Exactly. So they would know. It's like when Japanese people travel, or even Japanese people in their houses, they're just familiar with growing up without beds. And people, they may not. There might be Japanese people who have a bed at their own house, but it's not unfamiliar for them to go to a ryokan or a minshuku and stay in a place where there is just a room with a teacup and a bed, and that's it.
Or a futon.
A futon, yes. And there's a lot of people like my parents who travel around. My dad's, like I said, got two new knees. There's no way he's getting up and down off a futon. But I had to explain that. I have to explain that to hosts who are quite bewildered. And so that's what I did. I would go around training hosts on how to tweak what they've got, just to have that little bit of extra comfort, and also to give, Japanese people are quite shy and quite humble, and also to give them confidence, and give them confidence that they were doing the right thing, and give them permission to, and give them encouragement and pat them on the back to, you're doing a great job, because Japanese people don't want to make a mistake, and they're nervous and shy, and I was doing a lot of empowerment work.
That's actually really rewarding. Like it is. I like.
Lovely. So I mean, because there's a beauty to the Japanese naivete that it's just so charming, and you don't want to spoil that.
But it does need tweaking for a specific clientele. That I agree with.
Just for and just so that they understood that perhaps there are going to be people that are going to want a bed, or they're going to want a mug and some knives and forks rather than chopsticks.
I won't lie, the chopsticks thing when we arrived, that was big for me. Yeah. Especially like one of our mates that were we met here invited us to a barbecue. So first of all, they barbecued the vegetables, which I was like, what? People do that? And then they ate the pieces of chicken with chopsticks and the pieces of meat with like chopsticks. Like, I'm like, how? So I'm like, that was for me. I still don't understand that. So I'm sitting there trying to eat with my fingers, and they're like, But culture shock. But I suppose that goes both ways.
It does go both ways. So I was really just helping Japanese people, just adapt a tweak so that they could make more money, get great reviews, and also have more confidence and empowerment around hosting tourists. Because the desire to please, the desire to give hospitality was there.
Yeah.
There was just a skill set missing, that piece that I tried to fill.
I'm sure you did a phenomenal job. I mean, if you were able to grow your company to that extent, that is amazing, and to impart with that type of knowledge is golden.
Well, I guess I was just a unique position of long-term resident of Japan, understanding what it's like to travel around Japan.
It's also,
but also being a host myself. Yeah.
I was going to say, it's like where preparation meets opportunity. Success is
yes. There you go.
That
Lovely.
Right, so how did you evolve that? Like, did you also take on some of those properties maybe and host it on behalf of some of the clientele?
No, so my growth. So those two businesses are separate. So my consulting business is my own. I wanted something for me. So my other businesses I'm either doing with my brother or with my husband, and it's like, I want something of mine. So,
I get it. I get that.
Yeah. So that's why the consulting is mine, and I own it, good or bad. That's mine. So, but the Tokyo Family but I took the lessons that we learned from Tokyo Family Stays and I've applied those lessons to the consulting side. And how we grew the hosting side was through the corporate rentals. So that's a rental arbitrage model. And then we also started working directly with other investors, so people who own property here, who maybe live overseas, or they have bought a property here, they get transferred overseas, they still want to keep their property to visit when they come back to town.
A management company, basically.
Yeah, so I've been a co-host. So, and then I've got one client who stayed with us so often. So he was living in the US. His wife was Japanese, and then every year they would come back for a month or so, and put their kids in school, and also for his wife to get her a little bit of Japan. And after a couple of years, he was just like going, "I've spent so much money with you. How about I buy a house?" And I went, "Sure, okay." So he bought a house because property is not, he bought it cash. And he bought a house in the Tokyo suburbs, only being 10 minutes from Shinjuku, so it's not miles out of town. And bought a great house and land, because if you buy something slightly older, but not old, slightly older, you get a lot more bang for your buck in real estate here, because Japanese people want new and shiny all the time.
But also the depreciation, or there's no capital gain.
It's a depreciable asset, exactly. The land isn't, but certainly the building on top of it. Yeah. And if you're buying it for not for a capital gain, but for a cash flow, like a positive cash flow business, totally, this is the place to do it.
What are the returns on investment for short-term rental, roughly?
Oh, how long is a piece of string? So really it's so local, and it's so, it's so area dependent, it's size dependent, it's also who your ideal guest is dependent. So I just can give you some examples of our numbers. What I tend to work on is I want to cover all of my costs, whether it be rental or mortgage or whatever. I want to cover those in 7 days. Then that's fixed costs. So from 7 days of rental, I want to cover all of those. the next 2 to 5 days of rental, I want to cover the incidental costs. So they're things like the cleaning costs and the utility costs and any maintenance. And then the last 15 days of the month, I want that to be pure profit.
So you work on basically 2 weeks of, let's just say it like that, it's 100% profit. So 50% is the first half is all your costs involved, and the second is how you make your profit.
That's right.
That is really, really good. One thing
Yeah.
because we were looking at also property in Japan, of course, because this is a fashion, this is a massively successful industry to be in anywhere in the world. But what we found is when you start, when you buy a property here and you start renting it out for long-term rental, the return on investment average is about 3%.
Right.
And compared to
zero capital gain, right?
Yes. And that compared to our other strategies across the world, where, for example, in the UK, we make 12 to 17% return on investment per month. This is not a good deal.
No.
However, I wonder why, but we never actually looked at short-term rental.
Well, see here, there is such population is declining, construction hasn't stopped, so you actually have like a massive oversupply of just the small one bedroom, studio to one bedroom. They keep building them. I don't know why. They just keep knocking down buildings and putting up new ones, and they're just tiny little apartments. And there's such an oversupply of them, and there's so much vacancy. There's so much vacancy out there, and that's why we don't have a problem finding properties to list. Properties to list, because there's such an oversupply of empty places. That said, though, we're not really interested in the one room. The ROI is just not there for me on a one, like a studio.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because you charge per person, not per night.
That we do, and it's and also there's such a saturated place, and also we don't. Our ideal guest is a family. A family of four.
Tokyo family stays.
So mum, dad, grandma, grandpa. Mum. I don't want to be exclusive. I don't want to be sort of stereotypical here. So when I say family, I mean families come in all shapes and sizes and colours, and we're very inclusive. What the definition of a family is. So I want to be very clear about that. And we're very clear about that in our marketing as well. Whatever your family looks like, we will, we're the host for you. So, we have a lot of. Sorry?
When you start your family, you choose your partner. So
Yes.
whatever you make your unit of, that's your family.
That's right.
So during the time of COVID, of course, inbound tourism was non-existing.
It's so sad. It's been really tragic. Yes.
All right. So what did you do with all your stock?
Well,
and then
I'll backtrack a little bit. I'll backtrack a little bit because 2018 regulations came in. So there was a massive boom in short-term rentals between 2015 to 2017, and there was a lot of people came into the market. A lot of people were doing it badly. That's why I had a job as a consultant. There was a lot of what's the word? Negligent hosts who really were letting guests, weren't educating them well, weren't giving them the tools for success. And so there was a lot of backlash from communities, from the local suburbs. People trying to pile way too many people into a room, not giving them information on trash. If you don't give guests the tools and the information to succeed, they'll might be very well meaning, but they're not going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And of course that annoys the neighbors.
We were one of those people. We don't know. We don't know what the trash is about. I've never had these things, so I completely understand. Like, you don't put your bike in certain places. It's just, whoa.
Yeah, the unwritten rules, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's the job, in my opinion, and I'll get on my little soapbox here, it's the job of the host to really give the full information on how to live as a good community member. And also it's a job of a good host to screen the guests to make sure that they're going to be respectful and responsible. So it's not just anyone with a credit card can book. It's making sure that the guest is in alignment with not just you and your house, but your community. So, again, to talk about Tokyo Family Stays, our tagline is "Your home away from home in Tokyo." Our product that we sell, we don't sell cheap accommodation. We don't sell accommodation full stop. We're selling you a home experience. And when you live in a home, you're living in a community, and then so there's a whole bunch of other responsibilities that you get to experience. Now, the people who are interested in cheap accommodation, that's not a good fit for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're lovely people, and I'm sure they're great people. They're just not going to be happy in our house but the people who are happy in our house are the ones that are really looking for that local experience. They want to know what it's like to live in Japan, what it's like to go and exist in a different country, and go to the supermarket and live life like a local and have that, it's not just a bed.
Yeah.
It's the full package. And so that's the product that I'm selling. And so I've got to make sure that the person who's buying is that's the product that they want to buy as well. So
that's why the avatar is so massively important.
That's why in my consulting, I spend a long time talking about the avatar and making sure that there's an alignment there. So, yeah, long story long, there was a big pushback from the communities for hosts that were just, dropping people in and not giving them tools and not giving them information. And, people were putting their trash out wrong. And then so neighbors were complaining, and it was getting in the media about all these scary foreigners in different communities. And there was a bit of xenophobia. Yeah, a bit of xenophobia, which wasn't pretty. So the government needed to do something. They couldn't get the genie back in the bottle. So what they did was they said, okay, that's fine. We're going to allow short-term rentals, but you're going to have to be licensed. You're going to have to get a management company. You're going to have various fire restrictions, all of which are fair enough. The good thing about that is it weeded out a lot of the opportunistic hosts, the people that weren't really interested in the hospitality side of it, that were really only in it for a quick buck. It got rid of a lot of those people because, following the rules, it's, you do lower your profits a little bit. But it's good for the industry as a whole. So regulations came in. We looked at which houses we were going to keep, based on which ones were going to be easy to get regulated and also which ones were profitable. So the smaller ones we got rid of. The ones that were in apartment buildings where you had to get a special license, we got rid of. So we kept the houses, the big houses, and that's what we specialize in. And so we still have houses now. Some we own, some we co-host, and some we do rental arbitrage. So it's again a combination of all of them. And when COVID hit, we still, obviously still have the houses. So we pivoted mainly to families that were stuck in Japan. So these are families that are maybe live in other countries. They flew back into Japan and couldn't leave again. They were stranded here. So when all the borders shut, Japan just went boom. So I think you came in just at that time, yeah?
We literally came here a week before the border shut. So we experienced exactly what you're talking about now. The accommodation that was provided through the aviation got cut immediately as well. We had 7 days to find something else. It was a story, and that's how we experienced exactly all these things that you're talking about, because we were then basically Airbnb-ing every second month.
You could have come to me. I could have taken care of you.
I really wish I knew.
It's all right.
I should have come earlier.
Yeah, but our place is a 3-4 bedrooms, so it's great if you are stuck in a place for a long time, you get to have an office and fast internet. So, but yeah, we then pivoted to sort of medium term, not long term. The longest we had someone stay was 3 months, I think. But these were families that were here, couldn't go back. They maybe worked in China or worked in Indonesia or places where the virus was, really overwhelming the hospital system, and the companies didn't want to send their staff back to a place where they couldn't guarantee a working health system. So, that's what we've been doing. And then also we've been doing a lot of quarantining. So then...
that's a very good one.
So the business visas, people, if you've got a visa, if you've got a working visa or you're a spouse visa or so the visa started to get processed again. And so, we host a lot of people coming in for 2 weeks before they then go to another place. We're doing a lot of that. And so that the intercountry, the international transfers of staff is starting to come up again now. So these are people that maybe should have moved here April, May, June last year. Their transfer was pushed back to November, December, and now. We're looking after those. So they might land here in Japan. They need to, obviously do 2 weeks. They need to quarantine, but then they also need to get, find their long-term accommodation. So they need a place to base themselves and work from home while they're looking at unfurnished places, for example. So we're doing a lot of that now. Inbound tourism there's still no short term. There's a couple of people who are coming in on humanitarian reasons for short term, but there's not a lot of that, and there's just an oversupply of small. There's a lot of people doing Airbnb here who just have gone out of it. It just went, no, can't do it anymore. So, when the Olympics were cancelled, that was just the death knell for a lot of people. So we did close down 5 houses. So these were houses that we were planning to close down anyway after the Olympics. So our rental contracts with the owners were only due to finish in November of last year. And then, we filled up the houses that we were going to keep, and then the ones that we didn't, we just said, we're going to have to, let the contract go.
Yeah.
But the houses that we co-host, that for other people, we just have an arrangement with the owners.
Sure.
So any rentals we've had to pay, and we've had a little bit of government assistance for that because, again, we're a licensed company and we keep all our books and we're licensed and we're all above board, and that's always the best way to do business is to do things the right way, so that when something terrible happens, you've got the backing of the officials. So we've spent a lot of time getting government grants, and it's been a bit grim.
Well, that's a saving grace too.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's just what we're like. It's money that we've been able to survive probably without it, but it's money that is available to us. So we're just nuts not to avail ourselves of it.
Yeah. But
I've been. So.
No, I wanted to say, and as we bring this to a landing, I want to ask, during this time, you also started writing a book, right?
Well, I started writing a blog. So what I started to, after I picked myself up off the living room floor after 3 weeks of going into PTSD, with all of the cancellations, and the year that I was supposed to have in 2020 just went away in a heartbeat. I picked myself up off the floor, and I started writing. And so I took my consulting business online, and I write a blog. I wrote an ebook, and published that. Actually, no, I published the book beforehand, and I rewrote it for 2020 for more of a global audience. So I'd written it for the Japanese audience, and some other papers that I've written are actually in Japanese for Japanese hosts, and I took it more to a global audience so that I could, to the places that didn't have a problem with inbound tourism closing. Yeah. So the US market has a very strong domestic travel industry, and for some of those Airbnb hosts, they're having the best year of their lives, especially if you're in the mountains or you're in a cabin or you're in a tiny house. So people want to get away. Urban centres and places that really rely on theme parks and people visiting attractions that have closed, obviously, are in a similar position. But it's been a real shake-up of the whole industry, and it's going to look different when things open up again. Yeah.
So how can we get hold of you, or even your ebook or your consultancy?
So that's on my website, which is Tracey-Northcott.com. And that's my home. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm not a woman of mystery. You can just Google Tracey Northcott and find me anywhere, and I'll answer to anything. I'll answer to, and TokyoFamilyStays.com is my other website. So I built these websites. So again, coming from a tech background, I've got an advantage. I can build websites and people are talking to me. So so that you can find me there, and you can download my ebook from my website. You can get in touch with me, have a virtual coffee with me. Being on Clubhouse has been quite interesting. I've met some really great people and connected over coffee and met yourself and run a few rooms. It's been great fun, and it's just good to connect on a human level after being inside and cocooned for so many months.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for making some time.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. And just everyone, please have a look at TraceyNorthcott.com or Tracey-Northcott.com.
That's right.
TokyoFamilyStay.com.
TokyoFamilyStays.com.
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter,
and ebook. I'm going to go download your ebook now.
Thank you. I've just realized that I've been sitting here talking to you this whole time, and my office is a mess. I hope it wasn't too distracting.
No, that was awesome. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Till next time.
Okay. Thanks, Daphne.